Welcome to the Stuff and Things Podcast. Your home for all stuff related to your favorite things in entertainment. Now, here are your hosts.
Should I stay or should I go now? If I go, there will be trouble.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Stuff and Things podcast. I am Sam, and you'll definitely recognise my voice if you're a fan of the show. Today we are talking about Stranger Things, or Stranger Things on this podcast. And joining me is a very special guest to discuss the show. And it's very special to me because joining me today, and will be throughout Stranger Things podcast on this show, is my daughter Phoebe. Phoebe, say hello to everyone.
Hi everybody.
You are joining me to discuss Stranger Things because you basically plagued my life about this show to watch it, even though maybe you were too young to, so no one listening judge me too harshly. But you absolutely love it.
I am obsessed.
Would you say obsessed, a massive fan of all the seasons? Do you have a preference without giving anything away? So of course we're just talking about season 1 today.
Season 3 is the best.
Okay.
Then season 1, then season 2.
Okay.
And I can't wait for the new season.
Yeah, it's not far away now. So we will be discussing season 4 episodically. So although Netflix drops a batch of episodes and then a couple of months later they'll drop another batch for season 4, we will be putting out a show per episode for season 4. But in the build up to that, each week we're doing a review of each season that's come before. This is for season 1, so let's get stuck into it. So on the podcast we have a tradition on every show we talk about, with everyone I have on with me, is I say, and the title of the episode was. Now when I say that, typically I get Stefan is now prepared for it.
Yeah.
Now we're looking back over season 1, which is 8 episodes. So it's a little bit cruel for me to say, and the title of the episode was to you. So
I feel like I know what the first one is.
Okay, well, do you want to take a guess at it? So they're broken down into chapters, 8 chapters. Chapter 1.
I feel like it's something like the disappearing of Will Byers.
That is ridiculously close. It's the vanishing of Will Byers.
Same thing.
So,
thing.
Okay, do you want to have a crack at chapter 2?
No.
Chapter 2, The Weirdo on Maple Street. Chapter 3, Holly Jolly. Chapter 4, The Body. Chapter 5, The Flea and the Acrobat. Chapter 6, The Monster. Chapter 7, The Bathtub. And Chapter 8, The Upside Down. Okay, so November 6th, 1983, Hawkins, Indiana is where we start. The show's first episode literally opens in a lab. There's a scientist running for his life, and then the next thing you see is like a creature killing him.
Yeah, bye-bye.
When I first watched the show, genuinely, I thought, wow, this is going to be scary and quite jumpy. I think as it evolves, it's not so much. What about you? I mean, because you're obviously younger than me. I'm a bit more of a chicken when it comes to stuff like this. Thank you. But what do you think? Did you think, like, with that first scene, did it not make you think, uh-oh?
At that point, I was sort of mixed, because I was obviously very unaware of Stranger Things.
Yes.
I did not know the world I was about to be unleashed into, but I was a bit confused, like a guy who's running and then he's dead, what's going on? I wasn't so much scared.
Okay. We then go from that to quite literally 4 friends playing D&D, which is Dungeons and Dragons for those uninitiated. Will says to Mike, I rolled a 7, the Demogorgon got me. And I've written down in my notes here, foreshadowing. So anyone listening to this, we are talking about season 1 only. So we're going to stick to just the episodes in this and the content of this, but we are going to jump around a little bit in terms of talking about the meanings of things. Do you know what the term foreshadow is?
Yeah, we've done it in English, so it's like predicting future events.
Yeah, so it's like when someone's writing something, in this case a script, and it kind of foreshadows, it predicts events ahead. They're playing Dungeons and Dragons, and in it there's a roll of the dice, and everyone's kind of like, what did you roll, and then the boys have to go home, and Will Byers quite honestly says, I didn't roll a high enough number, so I've been killed. Will rides home. It's quite a spooky ride, and something appears to be stalking him. We don't know what, and he's gone.
Poof.
He's out of there. Again, as the start of a show goes, you've literally got a creature eating a scientist, and then you've got a boy being kidnapped, vanishing.
Well, at this point, we don't know if he's been kidnapped. He just poofs.
Just gone.
Just gone.
Yeah.
Could be eaten. Gone.
No, it's fair. At this point, we are definitely not knowing what's happened to him. There's a whole cast of characters here. I'm going to do this to you because I know you'll enjoy it. The 4 boys playing D&D, what are their names?
Michael Wheeler. Lucas, what is his last name?
I don't need the last names.
But no, it's annoying. Dustin,
yeah.
And then obviously Will Byers.
Will Byers. So you don't know Dustin's last name.
I feel like I do, but I don't.
Okay, that's fine. But those are the 4, and then of course we have a female character who's one of the main characters, and her name is
11,
yeah.
or L.
We meet 11 in the opening episode. She's hungry, and she goes into a diner run by a really nice guy called Benny. No. Benny's the first character in this that I'm kind of attached to and then very upset about. So Benny is just this great guy working in a diner who sees a young hungry kid. Basically the young hungry kid is stealing from him, but rather than being angry or anything, he decides to try and help the kid, does everything right, rings the right people, but it appears there's some sort of like government agency watching or listening. They just
like rock up.
Yeah, I mean they're basically listening to all the phone calls in the area. They hear what he's tried to do, they show up, and poor Benny gets shot.
That first character, that is really nice.
Yeah, I mean it kind of sets a tone, I think, for the show, that you're overly nice, you're probably going to end up dead. We do see some hints at powers for 11 in this very early scenes. There's a really noisy fan, which is going around while she's trying to eat some food when she's with Benny, and she basically stares at it until the fan stops.
Yeah.
It could be coincidence, but obviously it's an early hint. We then see after poor Benny is shot, she tries to escape, and there are 2 armed men. She runs through. We don't see anything, but we do then see the 2 heavily armed guys just basically knocked out. This episode, again, like I said, you're looking at all the different things. You're looking at kind of the characters being introduced. One of the main things for me is I was born in the 80s. I was born in 1983. So this show is set, literally the year I was born, November 6th, 1983. So I'd have been about 9 months old when this happened. What's kind of strange for me is seeing the world as it was in the 80s, because 83 USA, America was probably my memories of that time, the fashion, what people were wearing. I think one of the things for you watching it, obviously you never knew that time at all. What do you think of looking around, seeing the fashion, seeing the type of, there's no mobile phones or anything like that. I mean, how strange. With great difficulty, but we survived. I mean, what do you think?
I like the fashion. I want clothes like that.
It is weird how fashion goes in circles.
Yeah, it's starting to
come back round. Says the girl I'm sat with at the moment wearing a Nirvana t-shirt. Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, I mean, it is strange. It is very difficult. But do you find when you're watching shows that stuff like that you find interesting? Or do you find watching shows sometimes that can be a bit odd for you?
I feel like it kind of goes over my head because I wasn't there. And so, I don't know, I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
To like look back on it, and it's quite accurate from what I've heard. It's
definitely.
scarily accurate.
It's actually a really good time here. We can bring in a guest for us, okay, at this point. Now, when I started this podcast years ago, I was talking about Fear the Walking Dead with a man from America called Alfie. Alfie is a man who remembers the 80s very well and also remembers the 80s in America. So, Alfie, our first question to you on this podcast is, how accurate do you feel the depictions are of 80s Americana at this time?
Hello, Sam and Phoebe. Hope you guys are doing well in ye old England. Everything stateside here is just lovely, and we are living the American dream. So I have heard that I have now been reduced to just being an occasional expert on the Stuff and Things podcast, and I'm okay with that. It's the lot I carry in life now, and I'm good with it. So, regarding your questions that I just received here via Telegram, question number 1: how accurate do you think the depiction was of America in the 80s in season 1? Yeah, it was. That's pretty close. That's one of the things that I think, a lot of us here at least gravitated towards the show because it was super accurate. Everything, we joke, everything had a brown tinge to it just because everybody smoked and smoked indoors, and everywhere you went, it was just a cloud of cigarette smoke. Parents letting their kids go win wherever, do whatever. Very, very accurate, at least from the region that I'm from. So I think it was spot on. I don't think they missed anything. Anyway, that's question number 1 answered expertly. All right, catch you for the next question if you ever have one.
So we've talked about the introduction of the characters, and obviously there's a lot more detail for each one to come in, and a lot more characters as well. One of the main characters of the show, certainly the first season, and well, really throughout, is Will's mother. With Will missing, she really comes to the fore, and her name is
Joyce.
Yes, nicely done. Joyce Byers is played by a wonderful actress, and she really shows the sheer horror of basically having a son that's missing, and everyone thinking that
she's insane.
Well, everyone thinks that she's insane. Everyone thinks he's dead. They've kind of given up, and she won't give up because she feels like she can sense him. There's a very powerful moment where she gets a phone call, and she's convinced it's him, and she can sense him nearby. We as the audience kind of overhear it a little bit, but not a lot. It's
quiet.
Yeah, it is quiet. On this one it is. I know there's another one later on. We talked about 11 being introduced. She's kind of wandering around. Will's friends take it upon themselves that they're going to look for him.
Yeah.
So the 3 boys go out looking. Now, rather than finding Will, they actually find 11 in the rain, yeah. And that's basically how episode 1 wraps. I mean, do you remember much from the first time you watched episode 1 of the show? You're kind of, because one of the things that they have to do with Netflix is people binge watch.
Yeah.
So when an episode ends, they need to end every episode and make you want to go, what's the next one?
Yeah.
How did you feel? Did you feel like the show did enough that you immediately wanted to see what happened?
Yeah, because in that episode, it was introducing characters and setting loads of stuff up.
Yeah.
Because it started loads of little sections which it didn't, finish.
Yeah, so it's like plot, the main plot, and then subplots throughout each character. We obviously did meet in the first episode and continue throughout season 1 and beyond your favourite character in the whole show. And would you like to tell everyone listening who that is?
Hopper!
And why is he your favourite character?
Because he is the best.
Okay.
He's the funniest, and he is the best.
Okay. Well, I mean, he is the best was probably a good enough answer. We move on in this episode 2 now, chapter 2, The Weirdo on Maple Street. 11, or now dubbed L by Mike, which is short for 11, like Mike is short for Michael.
Yes.
They have a very cute conversation between each other. Lucas and Dustin call Elle a freak, and she has clearly escaped from a nut house. Now, you're much younger than me, but in the 80s, 90s, describing someone from a nut house, etc., was perfectly acceptable. That was...
Isn't it like calling someone like a nutcase?
It's literally what it is, yeah. So a nut house would be a colloquial term for an insane asylum, as was. But basically a mental health facility is what we call them nowadays.
Yeah.
Nut house. Yeah.
Wow.
So, to be fair as well, the other thing that's kind of interesting is obviously the boys probably would never have seen a girl with a shaved head. That would have been seriously extreme. Millie Bobby Brown was very young when she got this part.
I'm fairly confident she was 11.
Yeah, she 10 or 11 years old, definitely. And she, as a girl of that age, was convinced enough to do this and shave her head.
Poor.
Do you think that that's something you would have done?
Well. Yes.
Are you saying yes because of hindsight, you know how big the show is? Or are you saying yes because, I want to be on TV, that'd do?
Bit of both.
Okay, fair enough. Like I said, there's a tension there. So Mike is happy he's found Elle and she seems nice as far as he's concerned. Lucas and Dustin are not so.
They didn't find Will, take her back to the woods.
Let's get, we gotta go look for Will. Elle demonstrates her powers is one of the notes I've got here. We now, because like in episode 1 it hinted, in episode 2
it's shown.
It is shown. She definitely has supernatural abilities. Her supernatural abilities appear to be she can control things with her mind, move objects, and generally do stuff like that. And there is a bit of a telltale sign of when she is using her powers, and that is...
her nose bleeds.
Yeah.
Although it changes nostrils sometimes.
Well, I don't think changes nostrils is too much of an issue, but
it annoys me.
Okay. Is that a little OCD kicking in there?
Yeah.
But one of the things I did think we both spotted in season 1, there were a couple of times she used her powers and there was no bloody nose. So it'd be interesting to know if that's just a thing that they added in. Yeah, because perhaps it was something they developed to.
Or maybe it's how big the thing she's controlling. So if she's just doing something small, maybe it wouldn't bleed.
Exactly, yeah. That's what I'm thinking as well. How extreme the use of her power is. Hopper, who is the local sheriff, as we met, is... they find Benny, and it's been made to look like he committed suicide, which is...
because he's got a gun.
Yeah, which is really awful. You got to remember, again, this is the 80s, so forensic science for police nowadays would be able to tell that, no, that isn't what happened to him, because the bullet... But in a small town USA in the 80s, no access to things like that, I think you take that as a cut and dry, oh no, wonder why he did that.
Although Hopper is a little bit suspicious.
Yeah, I think Hopper is a little bit suspicious, but at the same time, Hopper appears to be quite burnt out himself, kind of just going through the motions. We do get introduced to a few more characters, sort of older characters, teenagers. We meet Nancy, and Nancy is the older sister to...
Michael Wheeler,
so Nancy Wheeler. And she has a best friend, and her best friend is called...
Barbara.
Oh, good old Barb. Good old Barb. And Nancy is involved with a guy called...
Steve
Harrington. Steve Harrington. Steve... appears to be a bit of a kind of jock style character from any sort of American movie, and Nancy appears to be quite a nice girl, but falling in with a bad crowd, because poor Barb does not approve.
Nope.
She does not approve one bit. Steve's having a house party. The two are going to go. Nancy lies to her mother about it. She didn't want to go alone, so she literally drags Barb with her. A decision that will come back to haunt her, I'm sure.
Yep.
Joyce, after that weird phone call, her phone was destroyed. So she gets a new phone. She gets the same call again, and this time she can actually hear, and so can we as the audience, hear Will's voice. So at this point, are you thinking, well, what are you thinking? To me, I'm just kind of like, it doesn't sound like a kidnapping. You know, this woman clearly doesn't have a lot of money. Why would you kidnap her son?
Yeah, I'm a bit... at this point, I thought it was 11 that had done something.
Oh, okay.
I thought, like, the people that shot, what's his face?
Yeah, the people who killed him.
Yeah, were trying to get her, and they were like, government, because she's bad and dangerous, and she's like... But
so you're thinking the people who killed Benny were actually the good people at this point?
At this point.
Oh, wow, okay. Well, is that just because she had a shaved head? You know, you've got to be a bad guy.
No, just because, like, she's got, like, crazy powers.
Okay.
And I don't know if
so
she's
because
like
she was different, she's the enemy, I see.
I don't know.
No, that's fine. Yeah, no, it's good. I don't think early on, and again, this is probably an age thing, but for me, big government and the people like agencies are always the bad guys.
Yeah.
But no, it's far better from your point of view that you were open and waiting to see which way it went. But like I said, we do hear his voice this time, and we also see lights really flicker. Music starts playing. Should I stay or should I go?
Which was his favourite song.
Which was his favourite song.
But the thing with the lights, it's like a connection, because when you went poof, the light in the shed flickered. So there's obviously like a connection with electricity stuff.
You are exactly right. But then we get what I describe as something very scary, where is something, a creature, appearing to want to come through the wall.
Ooh.
Yeah. That, to be honest with you, felt like something out of a horror film for me. Well, what about you?
It was like... It wasn't a jump scare.
No.
But it was kind of like a, ooh,
very
what
menacing.
is that?
Yeah.
I do not like that.
Oh, what is that?
And the music was very, not music, but like the way they kind of built up
the
that
sound.
sound.
Yeah.
That's what it's called.
Yeah. No, it was. I mean, I've written down here it was quite scary. Another character we're introduced to in a little bit more detail was actually Will's. So we've met his mother, but also his brother. He's got an older brother called Jonathan, who's around the same age as Nancy, Steve, etc. And Jonathan seems to be looked down upon by his peers as a bit of an outsider, a bit of a weirdo. He loves photography, and he's taking pictures of where Will's bike was found. He hears a scream and follows it, but when he gets there, it's just the party where Steve and his friends and Nancy and Barb are at.
Yeah.
He takes pictures, and I've written down here, a little bit odd.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bit creepy.
Yeah, he is a little bit odd in this instance, and he does take pictures of all of them sort of having fun and stuff like that. But one of the things he also takes a picture of is Barb sat alone. So Nancy gets pushed in the pool, she goes upstairs with Steve to get changed, dry off, the others have gone as well, and Barb is alone.
And she's cut her thumb trying to stab open a thing of beer.
You're absolutely right, she has cut herself. There's quite literally blood in the water, which is again a little bit of symbolism. And next thing we know,
he turns around to do something with his camera, and Barb's gone too.
Barb's gone.
But the lights flicker a bit as well.
They do, absolutely. So Barb basically vanishes the same way as his brother did. And that is the end of episode 2.
Da-da-da-da.
Episode 3 actually opens with Barb being in what we now call the Upside Down, and she is seemingly killed by the creature that we're calling the Demogorgon.
She looks messed up.
She does. We also see that Elle is having flashbacks of being in the lab while she's watching TV. Her fascination with TV as well, which I quite enjoyed, because obviously she's not been around the regular world at all. Joyce is trying to convince her son Jonathan that Will and the lights and she goes and buys loads of Christmas lights. Now, I've made that a thing because I don't think there's anything more iconic in the season 1 of this show.
Extremely iconic.
Yeah.
Like the image of just all the lights up.
Yeah, the Christmas lights. It was quite interesting because I know people who've never watched the show.
And they know.
And they know that. Like, they see the Christmas lights thing and they're like, oh, that's from that show called Stranger Things. You always know when something becomes that legendary. It transcends its own form. Hopper visits the lab, realises they are lying, but has no clue about what or why or the scale of the lie. So, just to sort of fill this in from this bullet point, there's a laboratory near to the town of Hawkins.
Yeah.
He's gone there basically to inquire on their security cameras if they saw Will at all.
Yeah.
And when he gets there, you can tell they're lying, but has no idea what they're lying about. And he even does a little test with them about, can you show me security footage of a certain night? They show him, and it's perfectly dry and a lovely evening, but he knows for a fact that night there was a storm and rain. So he knows they're lying, no idea. We as the audience know that this lab is where the government are based.
Yeah.
So the big bad guys, if you like.
At this point, I'm kind of steering away from Elle being bad.
So you are thinking of them now as the issue. So Hopper doesn't really know what's going on with that, but then he goes and does some more research. Hopper seems to be invigorated by this investigation. It's a missing child. He obviously has a past relationship with Will's mother. I think they went to school together. I think they were perhaps childhood sweethearts from back then. But not for a long time. And one of the interesting things that we do learn about Hopper throughout season 1 is he had a daughter himself who died. She had cancer and died in hospital. And Hopper, I think, is been kind of on autopilot ever since then.
Yeah, not really functioning.
And this case where there is a missing child,
he feels extremely kind of passionate about.
He does, and you see it because he's now researching. He finds newspaper articles about missing and stolen children at the laboratory. This company that runs the lab appear to have a history of children going missing nearby. Like I said, it's an interesting point of the story because Hopper is starting to pull at a thread, but he thinks that he's been kidnapped.
Yeah.
So it's like he doesn't... And it's understandable because the supernatural element of the show wouldn't be where your mind would go first.
There's almost like two sort of stories, like the kidnap route and the supernatural route, and they're kind of showing both the sides of it.
But if you're living in the real world, the show's supposedly set in a real time, etc.
Yeah.
You're not going to believe the supernatural. That's not even going to be your first thought, really. Other bullet points from the episode. Nancy realizes that Barb's gone missing and confides in her mother. Steve breaks Jonathan's camera in a confrontation over the pictures. So Jonathan did take a load of pictures of them all at the house party, which we both agreed.
Creepy.
And Steve finds out, they break his camera.
He's got like a couple of, he's got a friend, he's got a girlfriend. They're, in my opinion, they are worse than Steve.
I think so. Yeah, I think you're definitely right. I mean, Steve, in essence, as the show progresses, I think you get to meet the real Steve. I think at this point he's behaving like an idiot rather than actually being one.
Yes.
We get an immortal line come out, which I think kind of binds season 1, and the immortal line is "Friends don't lie." Elle, Mike, Dustin, and Lucas are out looking for Will, and Mike makes it abundantly clear to Elle that they're now friends, and friends do not lie. They see police and ambulances go hammering it past them at a rate of knots. There's a body in the lake. Up to this point, Elle has let them believe that Will is alive. They are following her. They're trying to find him. When they pull the body out, it looks like Will. When you watched this episode the first time round, did you think it was him? Were you confused, or did you just think...
I looked at it, and originally I thought, wow, that's some bad, editing from Netflix. That's clearly like a dummy. And I was like, but what if it's meant to look a bit dodgy. And so I was kind of conflicted between it's bad editing and that's not really Will.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think for me, again, I'm kind of watching it from a rational point of view. So I'm rationally thinking the supernatural stuff isn't party to this. And, you know, could it just be the fact that we are seeing a mental manifestation of Joyce losing her mind, not actually these events happening?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm still kind of hooked in at this point, not really knowing. So to my mind, I think I'm like, wow, okay, so Will's dead. That's not good, you know.
Yeah.
Hopper uncovered, kids going missing. We know they've lied. Is it a case that they've kidnapped him and now they've killed him to keep him quiet? You know, we don't know. Joyce is in the house. The lights up, and she's basically communicating with who she believes is Will. And she has written on the wall letters.
Like the alphabet.
The alphabet. And she's put all the lights up, and Will is lighting up the lights for the letters.
What she thinks is Will.
She thinks is Will. And then all of a sudden, you see some commotion, the lights are flashing, and he puts run. R-U-N.
And it's really slow.
Yeah.
It builds and builds, and then it's like...
And then we actually see the creature come through the wall.
And I feel... At this point, I'm thinking that's the same one from the lab because of the sort of weird, creaturey, grr noises.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it also kind of ends the debate to my mind of, is this a reality? Is it in her mind? Is this something else? It kind of ends that. We do now know this is a supernatural thing going on.
Yeah.
And she's in the centre of it. And because of that, I'm kind of like, well, Will can't be dead then.
Yeah, what was telling her to run?
Exactly. The fourth episode opens with Hopper telling Joyce that they found a body, and she won't believe it. She's having absolutely none of it. She tells him about the lights, and he clearly thinks that there's something wrong. Tells him about the monster in the wall, and again, here's something that's kind of difficult, because when she points to the wall's fine again.
It looks like nothing's happened.
But
to anyone else, her house looks absolutely insane. There's lights everywhere, there's paint everywhere. One of her phones is broken on the wall.
One of the nice details is Hopper actually stays there. He stays in his truck outside the property, so he obviously cares. And he's obviously upset by what's happened. Elle uses her powers to find Will on the radio is my next note, and this is one of my favourite scenes. So Mike and Dustin and Lucas are all angry at Elle because they see it as Elle's lied to them. They kind of believed her because she demonstrated she has some abilities. These are boys that like to play Dungeons and Dragons, so to them, like a magical, they've kind of gone on this like a quest. They're devastated. Their friend's dead. They think their friend is dead.
Yeah.
But no, Elle uses her power, and on the radio we actually hear the crackled voice of him singing his favourite song. There's a scene at their school where there's an assembly, where basically they're having a kind of chat with everyone about the fact that he's been found dead. The boys, however, know he's still alive.
Yeah.
They think about getting to a more powerful radio, so they want to go to the radio that is at school. Nancy talks to Jonathan about the picture that she saw, and they realise that she saw someone or something in the background. Jonathan recognises it as what his mum described. It's quite a big moment again where the threads of the show are starting to kind of come together.
It's like connect the dots, like all the things are...
Well, it's like creating a picture by dot to dot. It's like gradually the picture's coming into view. One of the things that did frustrate me a little bit is why Jonathan didn't just go straight to his mum. I kind of got a little bit, I was like, you've just realised that your mum's not crazy. What she has said is true. So therefore there's a really good chance your brother's still alive. Hopper tracks down the state trooper that found Will's body, and the conspiracy starts to really unravel at this point because he realises this guy's been paid off. This guy's not on the level at all.
Yep.
So he goes to find the body and check it himself. He even punches a fellow police officer to get into the room. Hopper is on a mission and he realises the body's not real. It is a fake. Will is still out there. And it kind of points him towards this even like crazier conspiracy. 11, using the radio at the school, does find Will, enables them to connect. All of the boys hear it this time, and then the radio goes bang.
And explode.
Episode 5 opens with Hopper breaking into the lab, and he is literally looking for Will. He's he's going through the place. You mentioned to me before we started recording, you realised after watching all the episodes together why he was so convinced that the lab was involved.
Yeah, because he found, like, when he was, like, searching through the woods, because there's, like, this group that, like, go and they're like, Will.
Search party.
Yeah, that's what it's called. He found, like, a ripped bit of, like, a hospital gown kind of thing, and he was like it was coming out of a pipe, and he was like, what if he's gone in there, what if he's come out of there, and that's why he's so focused on, like, the lab, like, he follows where the pipe goes to. Yep,
you're absolutely right. He basically makes his way all the way to the basement of the lab. He finds what we know as 11's room, L's room, and he manages to get his way down to the basement, and we know as the basement is where we saw that scientist, and we had that issue where the scientist was killed right at the beginning, and the basement of this place looks like it's in another dimension.
It's dark and none of the lights are working.
No.
Like I know I keep mentioning the lights, but it's
you're
quite a
right.
big thing, and
it's
like
a
darker. It looks dusty. It looks like it's old, like it's wrong.
Decaying. It's like it's going. He is grabbed and he is drugged. He is dropped by guards once he gets there. The boys and 11 discuss the Upside Down and they liken it to Dungeons and Dragons. So Elle tries to explain to them where or how she understands where Will is. They in essence call it the Upside Down. They dub it that because it's basically, in science parlance, it's an alternative reality. It's another dimension to where they are now. And they call it the Upside Down because Dungeons and Dragons. They're basically equating everything to their game, their fantasy game.
Yeah.
Joyce is at home with her ex. Now her son went to find their dad, who's estranged from their mother. He tells her that she needs a shrink and they need to organise the funeral for their boy. Jonathan comes back at this point, and the realisation hits us all pretty quickly that guy is literally there because he's after money. He wants to sue Hawkins Laboratory and the quarry, and he just wants to get money. There is a funeral for Will, which is very strange for his friends, of course, who all know and are convinced he's alive. At the wake, the sort of party afterwards, they have a conversation with one of their teachers. I think he's their science teacher. I know he runs the AV club.
I think he is their science teacher.
It's this teacher who talks to the boys and does an explanation, which is the title of the episode actually, about the acrobat and the flea. Do you remember that explanation at all?
It's something about one being able to go like upside down on the rope, like the flea can go all the way around on the rope.
Yeah,
and the acrobat can only walk on the top.
Yeah, so you've got the rope, the acrobat.
He's trying to explain about dimensions.
Yes. It is a well-known explanation for dimensional theory. So the acrobat can move backwards and forwards on the rope. He's set on the rope. He cannot come off of the rope. Whereas the flea is able to go 360. The flea's able to go all the way around the rope. So in essence, can go upside down.
Yeah.
And also jump around because that's a flea. So it's a decent explanation, and it also gives us the title. Going back to Hopper, he wakes up at home completely freaked out,
and he's searching for something.
Yeah.
He doesn't speak. He's just scrambling. He's wrecking things, like he's breaking things, trying to find something. And then I think it's like a smoke detector or a light. He like unscrews it, and there's a camera.
Well, it's not a camera, it's a listening. It's a listening microphone, yeah.
Listening microphone.
Yeah, so the listening microphone, we then get to see a shot of the laboratory and we realise they're listening to everybody in the town.
Yeah.
The whole town have been bugged, and Hopper kind of woke up, freaked out, realised it. I'm guessing they drugged him and hoped because of how much he drinks, he'll just think he blacked out drunk.
Yeah.
You know, they've shown no kind of compunction about killing people. I mean, that poor Benny got shot in the head. But I'm guessing they think
they don't want to kill any more people because otherwise it will become more... It will draw more, like, not attraction, but, like... Yeah,
more attention.
Attention to the town.
Yeah, I mean, also the fact he's police as well. So, you know, if the police goes missing, then all of a sudden you've got, you know, a lot of people are wondering what's going on.
Yeah.
So, like I said, he wakes up freaked out. Jonathan and Nancy go looking for the creature. She blows off a date with Steve to do it. At this point, I do want to bring in our expert again on all things Americana, because... We have a scene where the two of them go and basically buy themselves a gun. Now, to me, even to this day and age, that is so alien to me. To you, I mean, it's just bizarre. So, Alfie, stepping in here, my friend, early 1980s in America, or even today, is it really, or was it really that easy for just a couple of teenagers to walk into a shop and buy a gun?
Okay, question number 2. Look at this. I'm already getting to the second question, so I must have answered the first one correctly. Or at least correctly enough for you. So, anyway, question number 2. How easy is it for teenagers to go into a shop and buy a gun, as per a scene in season 1? So, still today, you can be 18 and go buy a rifle or a shotgun. Handguns, you have to be 21. Now, back in the 80s, depending on where you were from, if you were in a small town and the people knew you, you could go in and buy a hunting rifle or shotgun with really no ID and nothing else ever said of it. It's not out of line for that to have happened. I do know that, you know, some gun laws changed in the late 80s, so I would have to do some research to see exactly the year of the show versus the gun law if we want to get that precise about it. But overall, yes, that is accurate. You could, as a teen, go into a shop, buy a firearm, and no big deal. Anyway, thank you for the opportunity to be an expert guest of all things 80s and Americana. I guess that shows my age and also where I live. Anyway, have fun, guys. See you soon. And that's a wrap.
So we do have a situation where it's like different things are going on. Jonathan and Nancy are literally looking for the creature. They're going one direction. The boys with 11 are looking for Will. But 11's really reluctant. I think 11 realises...
She knows something that we don't know what it is, but we can tell there's something that's...
She's getting flashbacks of the experiments that were done on her at the lab. She doesn't want to go back there. She has escaped that and doesn't want to go, but she realises that the only way for them to enter the Upside Down that she knows of is at the lab.
Yeah.
So they think she's leading them there, and she isn't. They are using their compasses because of the large magnetic pull of this doorway to another dimension that they've worked out following the story from the teacher. And basically, we got these two like quests going on. Jonathan and Nancy are in the woods, and they do actually find in the woods another portal to the Upside Down. Which is kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
The boys, however, we do have a situation where they realise that Elle is basically lying to them. I think one of them, I don't know which one, notices her nose is bleeding. She's basically been messing with their compasses. And there's quite a confrontation, and the boys do end up in a fight.
Yeah, Lucas and Mike. Dustin's kind of the peacekeeper, essentially.
He's trying to be, yeah. But Elle protects Mike and throws Lucas, and he gets knocked out. He is out. Yeah, so that's not good. So that's kind of fallen apart. But back to what I said with Jonathan and Nancy. Nancy crawls through the portal, and she sees the monster. Nancy is in the Upside Down as it ends, and the tree portal appears to be closing. I've watched this series 3 times now. I watched it initially, I watched it with you the first time, and me and you have rewatched these episodes before recording. I'd forgotten that completely, that she ever went to the Upside Down.
I completely forgot about her and Jonathan going
that whole thing.
That whole, like, I remember like the whole compass thing. I remember loads of like random little details, but that just
that completely went over my head. It was I'd completely forgotten it. Episode 6, so the very next episode again, and we talk about how Netflix do these things, you know, the way the episode ends. I've got to see what happens next. She's in the Upside Down. Episode 6 opens with Nancy in there, and Jonathan is trying desperately to find her in the real world. He finds the tree entrance, and she makes it back, so he kind of shouts through it, and the tree heals up behind them just as she makes it out.
Although, when Nancy's in the Upside Down and Jonathan's in, real world, they're both identical, and they're both calling out, and you can hear them in the opposite world.
Yeah, so it's like going through the entrance.
Yeah, it seems like both worlds are really closely connected.
Yeah, and I think with the portal kind of open there, the shouts are going through that, kind of like funneling through it. I think with it closed, obviously you wouldn't be able to hear anything at all. But Steve goes to visit Nancy and spies her sat on her bed with Jonathan. Now, obviously those two have just been through a really traumatic experience. She doesn't want to be on her own. He's kindly said, okay, I'll stay in. I think he's got like a sleeping bag on the floor.
Yeah.
At the moment Steve arrives, he sort of sat with her on the bed. So Steve immediately gets the wrong end of the stick, really upset, thinks that his girlfriend's cheating on him, and goes off crazy, as boys do. That's why boys are bad and you should never date. There you go. Anyway, Hopper's talking to Joyce. One of the things I liked about this is finally Joyce has somebody who believes her.
Yeah.
Because Hopper, although probably still thinks she's being a bit crazy, he knows the body wasn't well.
Yeah.
He knows that there's a conspiracy going on with this lab, and he knows children have gone missing, etc. I think he's also now gone down into that thing. He can remember what he saw down there, how creepy it was. So he has this kind of, okay, perhaps this mystic creature stuff, perhaps it could be true.
Yeah.
So her finally having an ally, you can actually see the actor, I mean, brilliant. It's kind of like she's relieved when he says, like, shh, and talks to her about everyone's listening and things like that. You can see almost like the relief on her face that someone's finally listening to her.
Almost taking it seriously.
Exactly, yeah. They work out that it could be multiple children that have gone, and they decide they're going to investigate that. Hopper and Joyce go off to try and find the mother of one of the children that's gone missing, and it just so happens to be that they find Eleven's mother.
I completely thought that was in this series.
Yeah,
I thought it was.
I thought it was in series 2.
But I'm not going to say what I was going to say.
Don't. But it is in season 1. And again, she's kind of lost her mind a little bit through grief, or perhaps Hawkins' lab, they've done something to her, but she's unable to answer their questions, really. And she's got a sister there with her who says she's her sister anyway, and she tells them that, the baby, she keeps telling everyone her baby was stolen, the baby died. It's nonsense. So clearly they found a way to take her child and then created the story that the baby had died, so everyone just thinks she's crazy. So the meeting with her, again, just pulls at another kind of thread. Hopper, I think, is even more convinced of just how sinister the situation is now. Steve and his group of horrible children have basically painted giant letters, a defamation of character, certainly for Nancy. And Jonathan steps in and kind of fights for her honour, if you like. And there is a fight between Steve and Jonathan, and they end up getting arrested, which isn't great.
I'd like to point out that I'm fairly confident Jonathan won that fight.
Yeah, I think he did. I think so. 11 robs a store of Eggos. That was funny.
Very
She's
iconic
obsessed.
as well.
Very iconic. She's a little obsessed. And then we finally get probably your favourite scene, would you say? The bullies that have been running afoul of Dustin, etc., for this whole series, corner them by the quarry. They're going to make Mike jump off the quarry. It is a real horrible, sort of tense scene. Mike jumps because he wants to save Dustin because the bullies have got a knife. 11 appears, saves Mike by using her power to keep him up, and then uses her abilities to just mess with the bullies. And you get the line,
"She's our friend and she's crazy."
Probably one of the key parts of this episode in the finale is the confirmation of what we've seen hinted at, and that is Hopper losing his daughter. We see flashbacks in this episode of him, his daughter getting ill, his struggles with that, and it kind of paints the picture more of why he is the way he is. That's important, I think, for all of us to understand, not only the character as he is now, but also the adoptive relationship going forward.
Yeah.
Jonathan, Nancy and Steve actually end up fighting the creature in, again, one of these kind of iconic scenes from season 1. Jonathan and Nancy have a plan to lure the creature to the house. They realise that the creature's drawn to that area and drawn to blood, and they want to bring it away from Will because they know he's in danger. So they go there and they set the house up like a kill house. They have a massive animal trap. They've got petrol, to set things on fire. They've got their gun. They've got a baseball bat with nails through it. Yeah. So they are ready. They are tooled up. Now Steve, all of this is completely unbeknownst to him at this point. Poor Steve is just thinking... He's
turned up for an apology, basically.
In essence, he's turned up to apologise, and they're telling him to go away, and he's like, why? What the hell's going on? Steve is worried that Nancy's being hurt by Jonathan. He sees Jonathan as a bit of a weirdo, so he's freaked out by what he's seeing. He doesn't know what's going on. He sees that she's got a bandage on her hand from where she's cut herself. He thinks Jonathan's done it, and then, of course, the Demogorgon arrives while Steve's there. Steve actually saves Jonathan in this at one point. A massive fight ensues. They lay their plan. They use the trap the Demogorgon. They set it on fire, and the thing just managed to vanish. It obviously goes back.
They don't know if it's
dead or not,
because there's kind of like a patch of
charred
goo, whatever, on the floor.
Yeah, they definitely damaged it.
Yeah,
definitely.
Because it made a noise.
Yeah, no, I know. In my bullet points I said Mike kisses 11. Yeah. Yeah, see, don't kiss boys. Dr. Brenner and the troop show up. Dr. Brenner is the kind of the big bad guy in all of this. He's the one who 11 calls Papa. Very weird, very odd.
Creepy.
Very creepy. And 11 actually rips through them. They're holding them at gunpoint, and 11 kills loads of them.
Like blood streaming out of their eyes.
Yeah, I think it goes to show, because the show, over the course of the series, we've reached the 8th episode, chapter 8, we are looking at Elle as a sympathetic character. She's been experimented on, she's had all this stuff done to her, and we're of the opinion that she's a young girl, this is awful, she needs protecting, she needs friends. She is actually deadly.
Yeah.
She really, really is. And at her age, if she grows up from this point and harnesses these powers even more, she'd probably be the most dangerous person on the planet at this point.
Easily.
But yeah, so she rips through these armed troops like they're not even there. And then the big scene is the Demogorgon has actually left the house where he was attacking Will and Nancy, etc., and he is now at the school.
So there's loads of dead bodies everywhere. There's the children and the Demogorgon.
So the blood from the dead bodies obviously dragged the Demogorgon there. And you hear gunfire, you hear screaming, and they're trying to fight it off. The boys and Elle have run into like a classroom from memory.
Yeah.
And they're terrified, and 11 saves everyone. I mean, my note here literally says, she says goodbye to Mike, and she uses her power, if you like, to push the Demogorgon back to the Upside Down.
Something that I probably should have said earlier, she does have a bit of a barrier with language.
Yeah.
Because obviously she's been in this place for so long, so she's
true.
not got a great variety of words, and she doesn't speak a lot, so that kind of moment of her saying goodbye is like extra.
Is a big moment, you're right.
Yeah.
Hopper and Joyce find Will.
They've gone into the Upside Down.
They're in the Upside Down, and they have found him. And they try and they manage to save him. Will is in the hospital. Everyone's there. He's coughing quite a lot, but obviously he's been in the Upside Down. Yeah, it's not good. But generally, although 11 is gone, it's quite a happy ending at this moment. Everyone's kind of great. And we get a 1 month later.
Yeah. Christmas.
The boys are playing D&D again. It's Christmas time, you're right, so it makes it a Christmas series. Hopper leaves food in a box in the woods.
Not everyone, but at this point I'm like, she's alive.
So how does he know?
That's why I said my second thing about knowing she will be okay. Because, or maybe when he was in the Upside Down or like walking back or something, I don't know.
At the end of this point, and I genuinely can't remember if we get an explanation in season 2. I can't remember. Because we've not rewatched it, because we wanted to make sure when we were talking about season 1, it was just season 1. Yeah. So at this point, I don't think we know. The only reason why we know it's 11 he's leaving food for is because he leaves
Eggos.
He leaves Eggos, and that's her thing. Will is coughing a lot, and he goes to the bathroom with his family home, and he literally coughs up what looks like Demogorgon slugs. And then he looks in the mirror, and the whole world flashes like it's the Upside Down.
Yep.
And then he returns to the bathroom like
so he's
fine.
Still connected.
And something was in him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the kind of bullet points from the whole series. That is 1 to 8, all the episodes. Very quickly, bullet point fashion is kind of like a reminder, which is what we were going for. So that, like I said, that is season 1. The whole idea of this podcast is kind of like a reminder for everyone of the key events, the bullet points. We've not gone into massive detail, which when we do an episode by episode breakdown of season 4, we will do that. We'll talk about the scenes in a lot more detail. Yeah,
because it will just be based on
it'll be brand new. Yeah, episode by episode. But this is just to serve as a reminder. We hope you've enjoyed it. Just a few things to wrap up then. So, season 1 going into season 2. At this point, the show was announced to be renewed. So by the time you watched it, you knew there was another series. I think the first time I watched it, I realised that there was still a lot more. The scene where Will was coughing things up.
There's still more to learn about the lab.
Oh, there's loads. Yeah. Absolutely loads more. Loads of questions. But what I find quite interesting is if you take away that 1 month later part, you could have ended the series there. It did tell a complete story. So when they were writing it, I'm guessing they didn't know if Netflix were going to want them to make more.
So it was like here's what we could show you.
Yeah.
But, if not, it's just something to keep people talking about the series.
You got it, yeah. And I wonder if Netflix looked at it and said, this is only going to be one series, take that end bit off, you're fine. Or if they looked at it and gone, oh, okay, that's intriguing. What could come next? It's a balancing act for creators, I think. But like I said, the show's set in the 80s, and that carries on throughout the series so far. We will be back to talk about season 2.
Woo!
that'll be next week. Again, recapping everything. Then season 3 the following week. Then season 4 begins on Netflix, and we will be talking episode by episode, so you can download them at your desire and just go through them with us. Until then, everybody, you take care. We'll speak again soon.
Bye.
Let's go back to Indiana, circa 1983. Just 4 boys in the basement, chillin', playing D&D. There was Lucas, there was Willie, Will, and Dustin. There was a Mike. But one night, Will goes missing while he's riding on his bike. Yikes! That's when they met me alive. I had no hair on my head. I had been so close to dead. Courtesy of Dr. Branner, who's hunting me 24/7. Joyce was hanging Christmas lights in the web. Started hearing something Willie had said. This could be a message from the beyond. What happened to Barb? She's just gone in the upside down. Hopper's on top of the case. Well, I'm throwing fans into space. I'm lying down in a tank, trying my best to find Willie, and Dustin's got put in for days. Demogorgon's getting all in my way, blasting to pieces just like a grenade. Will's now at home, cuffing slugs in the sink. What happened to me? I'm in the upside down. What about now? The saga continues. Tune in to see how. Upside down. What about now? The saga continues. Tune in to see how. All I need is my Eggo waffles. I'm in love with those. What I'm left with when I use my powers is a bloody nose. Yeah. Bad news when you see that bloody nose. Yeah. Bad news when you see that bloody nose.
Thank you for listening to the Stuff and Things podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. You can find us on Facebook or online. Simply search the Stuff and Things podcast to join in our conversation every week.